Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and thank you for hitting play on this edition of the Animal Mind Podcast on your favorite pod player. What you're about to hear is the first edition, numero uno, premiere edition of Off the Cuff with myself and Zach Englehart. So for this series, Zach and I just sit and talk. No topic, we just sit and try to solve all of the world's problems pod style. So I hope you enjoy this series just as much as Zach and I do. It gives us a chance to tell our stories, both old and new, and why we are here doing this podcast. It also gives us time to discuss the mission of Animal Mind and any news that we may have for you. So please remember to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and subscribe on your favorite pod player so you never miss a minute of the show. But enough of that. Here we go.
Oh man, I've had a weird week. It's been one of those ones where, been more about like observation and trying to understand some things that are kind of foreign to me. Firstly being how other people perceive their college experience. And the second major point is I've been trying to read a book that basically outlines the wave tops of Eastern religion and philosophies. So that way, when I read books by about Paramahansa Yogananda or Dharma bums, like I can understand the vocabulary and how those philosophies and religions work. Mm-hmm. So those two things have been kind of my main focus in the last few days.
Your house isn't covered by ice, is it?
No, we did get about an inch of snow since Ayla was here.
Since she got there?
Yeah, she got at the house at about 5, and she left here about 9:40, and in between then, it was enough for her to have to go out and brush her car off.
All right. No snow here in Virginia yet. A lot of rain. Still raining. Never ends.
At this point, a lot of folks are so sick of winter, they'd take some rain.
I've had CCR's song stuck in my head, Who Will Stop the Rain, for about 3 months.
You guys...
Still I wonder, who will stop the rain? And when you live...
Yeah, it's been a wet winter, dude.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine the mosquitoes that are going to come out of this when the season rolls around. Without a good freeze for us down here and all of the water, oh my gosh. The mosquitoes are already as big as birds where I live. They don't spray for them. There's no spraying for the mosquitoes. If you want to take care of your property, you got to take care of it yourself. And at that point, we pretty much live in the marsh. So you could spray your property all you want. You're in the middle of the marsh. So
yeah, you might as well just get used to getting bit.
I get worried that a mosquito is going to fly by and pick Bryce up and just carry him off. I'm not so worried about him getting bit.
Yeah, he gets pulled into the swamp. That's the end of it.
Yeah, but here's the thing about him. I know that if one swooped down and tried to grab him, he'd just throw a saddle on him and ride him around.
Yeah, he'd just buzz around on him like, I am the king of their people now.
So today I went on a training hike. I try to do that every Sunday to try to keep up with my hiking training. So where I'm at, it's absolutely flat. So I have to do the best I can where I am. But I decided to do 6 to 8 miles, throw a rucksack on, a pack, about a 20, 25 pound pack, the same pack that I carry up in the Appalachian Trail. And so did a walk around, and actually what I tried to do was to stay off the roads and this sounds a little crazy, but what I noticed about the trail is there is nothing that is even terrain. Like your ankles are just going the entire time. So I tried to stay like off the side of the road where my ankles have to force to go off kilter like the entire time. And then like I was saying on the last podcast, I ended up having to wade through water up to my ankles. And so I had some soggy shoes, but I figure if I'm on the trail, you can't avoid it. Sometimes those things are going to happen. So it's all a part of the training.
I agree. And there's no better way really than if you can't walk out in your backyard and climb a mountain, you have to make your own mountain. And I think that's the best way to do it.
That's right. I mean, when I'm at work, like I'll throw the treadmill on and, go to the steepest incline possible and then get on the stair climber, things like that, or just go climb the tower over and over again. This past week, I did threw on turnout gear and threw turnout gear. So, turnout gear itself, the pants, the coat, the helmet, all that kind of good stuff, you're looking at about 30, 35, 30, I'd say 30 pounds. Then you throw a pack on, and so it's a SCBA, self-contained breathing
Yep.
apparatus. So it's another 30, 35 pounds you throw on. And then I threw on a high-rise pack, and that's another 30, 40 pounds. Throw that over the top. So at the end of the day, don't do the math for me, but it's around 90 pounds. So you look like you have a question.
Yeah, this is something that's plagued me for years. Why is a fireman's helmet shaped the way it is? I don't understand the shape. It does not like any
Okay.
other helmet. So what is the purpose of that helmet being shaped the way it's got the big old bill in the back, but hardly not much in the front, and it kind of looks like a hard hat, and then of course you got your station number on the front, which makes sense to me. But
Yeah.
I don't lay it out there.
So it first of all is tradition. All right. So these helmets have been passed down, and actually it's an American tradition, because if you go look in Europe and in other countries throughout the world, they have a very different looking helmet. Their helmets are more modern. Some of them look more like even motorcycle helmets and things like that. But in America, it's typically a tradition. Now there are different types of helmets in America. Some of them do look a little bit more modern. Our department uses a traditional style helmet like the one you're talking about. It's got the shield on the front with our station number and all that kind of stuff. So the bill in the back is actually to filter water off of you, so that the water doesn't land down your coat. So if there's water like raining down on you or whatever, they're actually perfect helmets to be out in the rain, because it acts sort of like an umbrella, and the rain just drops down and stays off of you. So obviously
Okay,
with
well that
doing a
makes
lot with
sense. Yeah,
water. Yeah, so if you go and you look at pictures of firefighters fighting in harsh climates, and specifically, and they're out in rain and stuff, you can really see how it's almost like a gutter that just keeps water off of us. So it works pretty good. So yeah, so about 90 pounds, and I'm going up the tower, and that's a good question, by the way. I'm going up the tower, and I did about four floors. I did that 3 times with 90 pounds. Dropped the pack. Did another 3 floors with 60 pounds. I dropped the high rise pack the first time, and then I dropped the SCBA pack the second time. 3 more times up and down. So it doesn't sound like much, but when you're doing your first 4 floors with 90 pounds, I'm sorry, 12 floors with 90 pounds on your back, and then your next 12 floors with 60 pounds on your back, it adds up. So just trying to do stuff like that, just trying to get ready for my job, but also to be on the trail. And that's the one thing I really discovered when I was out there on the AT a couple weeks ago was, man, elevation, elevation, elevation. I was just climbing forever. So just one of those things I'm training for. But go ahead.
It always amazes me that when you're carrying something, you know that it weighs, let's say it's 90 pounds, but the farther you carry it, the heavier it feels.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that has any sort of like sports knowledge knows that's lactic acid. Obviously, your muscles are burning, you're trying to get oxygen there. But it's like this intense psychological thing where you're like, man, I know I'm only carrying 90 pounds, but damn it, it feels like 280.
Yeah. So one of the things I like to do to my recruits is leg days are on Friday, so they have 2 days to recuperate. I tell them, you recuperate on your own time. Come back on Monday strong. But yeah, the cool thing about, I think, lactic acid. And lactic acid is essentially what makes you sore after you work out. And I wish I could describe all of the ins and outs of it. I'm definitely not a physical trainer. But if you work out hard enough and long enough, essentially you can push a lot of that lactic acid out, and that's why you no longer get sore. That's why you get mostly sore the first couple of weeks that you're really working out hard. And if you keep working out hard, you just don't find yourself getting as sore because you've already pushed out the lactic acid. There's a couple things also that you can do to try to mitigate that. First of all, just work the hell out of yourself. Get it all out of your system. That's what I try to do to the recruits. Water flushes it out, so you've got to drink a lot of water. And then try not to be so eat and drink such acidic foods and drinks. Now that's hard for me because I drink a lot of coffee, and coffee by its nature is acidic. But you want to replace that with some kind of alkalytic foods. And so you're talking about a lot more vegetables, fruit, well, not fruits, but some fruits, but mainly a lot of vegetables and leafy greens that can help. And then, man, the last one people really don't understand, but breathe. Because basically what oxygen and carbon dioxide in the exchange, that kind of mitigates a lot of the acidity of the body. And so I really like to do the Wim Hof breathing we talked about a while ago.
Yep.
And so every morning I take about, I don't know, I don't do it for very long. They'll do it for an hour until they pass out. But I can't risk passing out before I've got to get in the car and go to work. So
yeah,
I'll
it's
do
not
it.
a good look.
No, so where's Pat? Oh, he passed out Wim Hof breathing. Yeah, exactly. So I basically do a pyramid. I do 30 breaths of artificial hyperventilation. And then, so basically what I mean by that is it's breathe in deep as you possibly can, breathing from your stomach all the way up into your chest, and then breathe, just allow the breath to fall out. Don't push it all out, but just allow it to fall out. And that way you're not getting rid of all the carbon dioxide in your system. And that there's a reason for that. And I'll give it just a second. So I do that for 30 breaths, and then I hold my breath as long as I can. And then I'll do 20 breaths, hold my breath as long as I can, 10 breaths, hold my breath as long as I can. But the reason for keeping a little bit of the carbon dioxide in your system has to do with the human's urge to breathe actually comes from carbon dioxide in the blood. It doesn't come from lack of oxygen. It comes from excess carbon dioxide. So it's trying to breathe that out. So if you keep a little bit in your system when you're doing that whole breath hold part, the body's sort of satisfied, satiated, if you will. But at the end of that, say 5 minutes or so of breathing like that, you've hyperoxygenated your brain, all the cells in your body. It really helps for repair of tissue. There's a lot of studies that have gone into this, and it's one of those things that's really interesting. I can't tell you all of the ins and outs of Wim Hof. Definitely a person to study. And I do some of the cold acclimation. I could do it more than I do, but the breathing part is really important. And then another thing that I do as soon as I'm done with that is I take about another 5 minutes of trying to get my breath down to about 6 or less breaths per minute. And so humans breathe, I think it's 6 to 12 is what you want as like an average breath, 6 to 12 breaths per minute for adults. So to try to get it down to around 5 or 4, what it does is ends up slowing your heart rate. So it's kind of a meditative kind of breathing. So what I'll do is I'll breathe in really deeply, and then I'll breathe out, and then I'll count slowly to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. And then I'll do it again. And what I'm trying to do right there is, I've already hyperoxygenated, and then I'll try to bring my heart rate down, way down. So that's my meditative routine in the morning. Anyway, I don't know how we got off on this, but yeah, so adults actually don't breathe appropriately. And I think especially, well, I guess you could say men or women, but I was about to say men don't breathe the way we're meant to breathe. We're meant to breathe from our belly up to our chest. And children know this. If you watch children breathe, they tend to breathe with their bellies a lot more than with their chests. But I think as we get older and we start to, especially when you start getting in those puberty years of your life, you don't want to appear fat. So you kind of suck or if you're me and the rest of the Americans, you try to suck in your belly so that nobody can tell you've got a little bit of excess going on down there. So you're always contracting your stomach muscles. And when you do that, you're not letting enough air into your lungs. So you're constantly deoxygenated because you're not breathing into the lower lobes of your lungs. So we don't drink enough water. We're not breathing in deeply enough, and we're jacking ourselves up. So we're acidic. And then so when we decide, hey, I'm going to go work out, we're already not breathing appropriate enough for the workout, and then we're just sore as shit when the workout's done. So that's my expose on breathing and working out. I don't know where that came from.
Well done.
Mic drop. So yeah, I went out today and did a little bit of hiking. Past 2 days, I really didn't do much. Chris was out doing paint parties, doing all that kind of stuff. And I did a lot for us. I did a lot for the podcast. So now we are on, let's list it, iTunes. We're on YouTube. We're on Stitcher. We're on Spotify and Google Play now.
Man.
Yeah, and the funny thing about Google Play is our old buddy Tim Stewart contacted me, and he was trying to play our podcast on Google Play, and he said it was there and he could play episodes, but he could not subscribe to it for some reason. And I was like, well, that's funny enough because I didn't know I submitted it. So I said, all right, well, I'm gonna go look it up. And I said, I'm on it, Tim, just for you, the one person out there trying to use Google Play to listen to our podcast. So if you're out there using Google Play, you're welcome. Please tweet to us. Find us on Instagram. Let us know you're using Google Play. But
absolutely, send a message. Say hello.
But yeah, so we're everywhere now. How does that make you feel?
It feels good. I'm a huge fan of Stitcher, and I use YouTube as well. I like to watch Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I'll put his on YouTube I have my PlayStation in my bedroom because I do from time to time like partake in the occasional video game. And but I mostly use it for watching, streaming whatever television. I put that on before I go to bed. So it's really exciting for me to be able to put that on my own TV and hear my voice on TV.
It's really exciting for me to hear.
I hate this. It sounds super conceited, but it's just like one of those like novelty things for me at this moment where it's like I can click on Stitcher where Joe Rogan lives and where Steven Ranella lives and like Aaron Snyder.
Yeah.
And I can click on it and like, yeah, and like bam, like, well, guess what? We are in that neighborhood with the people that I respect and that you respect in our digital home, which I think is really cool.
And so I think what's really funny about that is when you and I met, and I hope I don't get this wrong, and I'm not trying to make you look bad or anything, but when you and I met and I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing a podcast, and I want to say you said, all right, I'm down. And you're like, but what is a podcast?
Yeah, I was like, I want to do a podcast. I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm in. What was that? Like what do we do there? Is there what?
What is that? Yeah. And podcasts haven't been around that long, but so it's interesting. I'd say the first 20 episodes of Zen Disc Golf Podcast you were on. And I remember talking to you. Did you listen to the podcast over the first like 4 or 5 episodes? And you were like, nah, I don't think I'm going to listen to them.
Yeah, I think my response was like, nah, man, I lived it. And then, so I didn't listen to all of them. And then now I listen intently because I feel like when I go back now, I learned something like I might have missed in the midst of the show because there's just so much stuff that comes out that is just up value that it's just impossible in the moment to take it in for what it's worth. So it's nice to kind of go back over it and have the option to like mull it over and take it in and go, okay, how do I feel about this? And why do I feel this way? And what did I learn? And how does it make me feel? And what do I need to change? And what can I take away from this to make me better? And what insecurities does this bring up in me? Does it make me fearful? Does it make me angry? And that way it allows me the time and space within the confines of my life to be able to go, okay, this is what I can use from this to grow, and it allows me to go back and do it. Whereas before, I don't think I had the foresight to realize the benefit of going back. Like I think it was just too critical. Like I didn't want to hear myself make a mistake.
Well, I've gone back and I've been listening to them because I've been uploading all of them to YouTube specifically, and I've been listening to them, and I don't even recognize myself. like I guess it's 4 years later. My voice is like, I don't know if that's years of running academies and PT drills and things like that. I don't know what it is, but the person that was on those podcasts is totally not me. And also for you, we're two absolutely different people. And my wife was commenting on it. It's like those people on that podcast are you guys. Your chemistry is there. You are there. But you're two absolutely brand new individuals here for the Animal Mind podcast. And of course, my comment back to her was biological. And I said, well, actually, if you want to really think about it, I think it's a period of 2 years that every single cell in your body is replicated and you are physically no longer the same person you were back then. So
I agree.
So yeah, it is very interesting to go back and listen. Now, what I can say about those podcasts is we did a pretty damn good job.
Well, I think by we, you mean you. I was just there, man. I like all the work and the technical knowledge and the know-how is more you than anything. I don't have a dog in that fight. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. All I know is that you tell me 7:30 we're gonna crush it. And I'm like, I'm here, man.
Yeah, yeah. And
I'm within the Animal Mind podcast corporate infrastructure. I have recently received a promotion. I don't know if you knew. I am actually, I'm the outreach manager.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that.
I'm reaching out now to folks that are interested in being on the podcast. So, the promotion comes with a nice raise. I don't want to brag, but it feels pretty good. I'm finally gonna get that jet I always wanted.
Well,
so I'm excited.
When zero is a multiplier, I could give you a 10, 20, 30% raise and, I'm like,
jack it up, dude, 60.
just 250% raise when you have zero as a multiplier. By the way,
you know what? I think we're going to look back on this.
I still need that $20 from you.
I know. I was asking Ashley, I was like, dude, does he have a Cash App? I don't know how I go about this. Do you want me to send a check in the mail or?
Yeah, that's how. So two people who do podcasts, they also like to fax things and send checks in the mail.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You can't have everything be digital. You got to be in the Stone Age every now and again.
Yeah, you got to have 1 foot in the digital realm and 1 foot back buying groceries with a checkbook.
Yes. Oh, I hate it when people do that. It drives me insane.
And a packet full of coupons. But yes, outreach manager.
No. So I'm excited. I feel like we've found some people. Some people have found us. I like the core of the individuals that we brought on. Our first guest episode with Nathan was enlightening. I think he was just like a super positive guy, and that conversation, there was a lot of chemistry, a lot of unity in that, and I was grateful to have somebody that I was I've known him most of my entire life, and I felt like he meshed really well within our relationship because I felt like for as much as I knew him, it felt like you knew him while you were talking to him, which was nice.
Well, and most people won't know this, but a lot of the magic of that show happened after I hit stop on the record button. And it was like you guys just kept going and you were telling all these stories. And I was like, why did you tell me to hit stop? So what I think we should do? I think we need to bring him back to off the cuff. And we should just go off the cuff.
Oh, he would love that. He would love it. Dude, he's like, he just had a baby on Thursday. His significant other and him had a baby on Thursday, Emerson.
Nathan.
Yeah, and he's a handsome baby, and it was fun. I got to go to Ashley and I went to the hospital, and his two other children were there, so I got in a wrestling match with his oldest boy, which is one of my favorite pastimes. That kid's a beast. So, and so he would love to come back, and we got stories on stories on stories. And if you could just think of like every dumb thing that teenage kids do together, we did it. Like we lived like a rock star lifestyle at like 15 that people would never even experience at like 30.
Yeah, you were just checking into the Holiday Inns just to destroy stuff. Like
yes,
rock stars.
It was just, I mean, just some of the stuff that we do is so dumb, and it's just, they're hilarious stories, but you just never, what audience wants to hear it, I don't know, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point of Off the Cuff. We get to come in and, so the interview episode drops on Monday. We get to really pick into the psyche of somebody out there doing amazing and inspirational things, and we'll shed a little light onto what we're talking about with Animal Mind. And then on Tuesday we drop off the cuffs. This is kind of just a little fun episode where you and I, our chemistry just gets to shine, because when this is what I was thinking about during the week when I pitched this idea to you. It's awesome to bring these people on and get to talk to them, but you and I got to talk too, and that was the original concept of the podcast was, hey, let's hold each other accountable. As good as friends we are, that we need to just talk to each other as often as possible, and continue our relationship in that way, shape, or form. So we just come in with nothing. I mean, like, look, we're already something like 20 minutes deep into this podcast, and everything's just been flowing just so perfect.
Yeah, there's no script here, man. We're just talking to talk, and that's the beautiful part. Geographically, the distance is definitely, it creates a difficult amount of accountability in any friendship and relationship. I have some of my best friends I just never get to talk to. We don't ever get blessed with this opportunity, and yet here we are taking the opportunity to spend this time digitally, where I'm looking at you, you're looking at me, a conversation where we can see each other laughing, and it's funnier. It's amazing. So the opportunity to just do this is it's what a blessing, man.
Yeah, and it's just like we were talking about with Ayla. I think it was during the 10 list episode about connecting with people and social media, and how we've really gotten to the point where we hit like on somebody's post and that's enough. And it's like, okay, well, I interacted with that person. I know what's going on in their life because I saw their post on Facebook. And man, you're only looking at like 5% of what's going on in their life, and they're not telling you the hard stuff. They're not telling you half of what's going on. And we just stop reaching out to one another, and we become isolated. And that's particularly unhealthy for guys like you and me.
I agree, and this is, my wife has said it before. She goes, "Hey, I noticed that you don't put any pictures, or very few, of me and the kids on your Instagram." And she goes, "Well, why do you do that?"
Oh, she
and I
nailed
said,
you.
"Well, she did. Yeah, she nailed me right to the cross there." And but my response was genuine, and then I said, "Ashlyn, my military background scares the hell out of me. And I don't want my kids to be blasted all over. Facebook's one thing. I have a lot more control, right? And Instagram, you can limit your followers, but we're in the midst of organizing this podcast, and you're trying to get people to be involved. And I don't want my kids' faces on it. I really don't.
Yeah.
I love my kids, and I want them to be a part of it. But I don't want some stranger in Bangladesh to have my daughter's picture.
Yeah, understood. And that's why I actually have two personal accounts on Instagram. It's kind of a nightmare to keep up with, because I got 4 accounts going on Instagram right now. Of course, I have the old Zen Disc Golf podcast account, which I'm trying to start keeping up again. I let it slide for probably a couple years, but I'm trying to get back in the midst just to keep massaging it and keep it going. But then I have my personal account, which is private. It's only I only take pictures of the family and the house and the county that I live in, that kind of stuff. And then there's the public one, which incidentally changed my my Instagram handle from Animalis Machina to Animal Mind Pod Host.
Oh, very nice.
So now it's connected to the Animal Mind podcast. So, and of course, I also run the Animal Mind podcast IG as well. And then our accounts are linked up to that too. So
yeah, I check in that probably once a day. I don't tinker with it too much, because I feel like I don't want to what's the best way to say? Like, if you have a certain way that you're running a certain pitch or what you're working on, I don't want to put my finger in it and have you go, "Oh, damn it, you screwed that up." So I won't make any edits or anything like that without asking first. It just seems like good business to make sure there's continuity there instead of just going rogue. Although I will say, as I start to come across, for example, the picture about the books that I bought the other day. I thought about putting that up on there, and I just you know what? We didn't talk about it, and I figured I'll just wait. I'm gonna get more anyway. So, I thought that was value added only because I think it lets people know the insight of what
that we read, that we're not illiterate.
Yeah, what am I into? Who am I as a person? What are my literary interests? And the one of you introduced me to Paramahansa Yogananda. You know, what the heck was another book? Oh, damn it, there's another book in there that you introduced me to. Um,
You had
I don't
Dharma
remember what
Bums
the
in there too, Jack Kerouac.
Dharma Bums.
Yeah.
Yep, you introduced me to that one as well. And I read them before, but I had them on a Kindle that I lost. And so I wanted to get it's a lot harder to lose a book. And so, then I just like the paper copies. But what I did was I got this book, just a basic understanding of Eastern religion and philosophies. And what I realized very quickly when I started to study them was that I'm reading a lot of books about Zen principles and Dharma and karma and all these things, but I don't understand any of it at a base level. So it might as well just be reading like Harry Potter, be like, and the prisoner of Azkaban, like it's just made up words. So what I did was I went and I got this book on the basic understanding of the philosophies and principles and religions. So that way I understood the vocabulary, one, and two, I could actually see what I wanted to apply to my own life. And what I found was that Hinduism, oddly enough, which I thought was Buddhism, which I had them backwards in my mind because I hadn't studied them well, resonates with me about their understanding of the concepts of space and time and our role here, and that your soul is the universal being and that your body is kind of a husk. And it was nice to see that written and explained my thoughts and feelings that I had never been able to fully verbalize or even experience. So for me to be able to read that was one of the most liberating experiences I've had recently, to know that exists and that I'm not.
So when you say that, are you talking about the spirit being the driver of this meat vehicle that we drive around? And that's what you're saying, essentially?
Yes, and that you can work on it over several lives and not just one.
So,
Um,
so barring the concept of reincarnation and things like that, it's also prevalent in Christianity that we are a spirit driving a meat vehicle. So,
and I agree. I agree with that as well. And again, I'm a Christian as well. It was just, I feel like the neat thing about the Hindu portion of it is they just believe that, hey, however you get there, get there.
mhm.
They don't care if you're Christian or whatever the case. They're not exclusive. There isn't an exclusivity, whereas some of the other religions are.
So,
And I'm not saying one's better than the other. What I'm saying is that it's nice that I like their inclusivity.
the concept of, and this is interesting conversation. I know we're treading on dangerous waters here, but that's okay. It's okay to do that. So what's interesting though about the principle of karma, are you familiar with the caste system?
Yes.
Okay, so they had the lower castes in the caste system in India, and basically these people were the only people able to clean out garbage and latrines and all that kind of stuff, and they were basically known as the untouchables, right?
Yep.
Well, they were the very poorest of the poor in the country, and the people of the upper caste system philosophically allowed themselves to look down on these people and to to not try to raise them up, to not try to save them or raise them up, because philosophically they can rationalize that they're less human because in a past life they made mistakes or they did or they're problematic. And so that's a big difference between say Hinduism and Christianity, where we look at everyone as brothers and sisters, and those who are having hard times to raise them up. Do you see what I'm saying philosophically there?
Yeah,
So it
I
can be
agree with that.
problematic.
I agree. Yeah, and I think you really made a great point there. The one thing I do love about Christianity and Christians as a whole is that they're willing to lift up their brothers and sisters, and that to me is a unique trait to Christianity that I think they just, you can't replace it. You can't live without it. And the good, bad, or indifferent,
Well,
you love your fellow man, and
it's
that's
sort of
exciting
what's
for me.
created the West.
Yeah.
That's why the West is so different, because those principles over here, um, and I think that is sort of integral to the most Americans' philosophy. Now, that is not to say that Christians are not problematic. Christians are problematic. We are not perfect. Um, and as a matter of fact, in order to be a true Christian, you have to admit your imperfection and your vulnerability, to admit that Christ is better than you are, and that he is higher than you are. And there's bumper stickers. I don't know if they have them up north that say he is greater than I. It's kind of a unique design that they use for that. But anyway, but that is kind of what allows. So I think there is some type of karma in effect, but as long as you don't allow that philosophy to allow you to look down on other people and just say, well, that person's a piece of crap, and they're where they should be because of what they've done in prior lives, and we don't need to
I
rescue them.
Yeah, and I agree with what you're saying. My thing is I never really gave it any thought to about other people. I meant more of like for myself. So
Right.
looking inward, and I think that the cool portion of like the meditation and the understanding of like thinking about like time as like a primordial ocean and it's all around you,
Mm-hmm.
is that it would allow me as a Christian to use that mindfulness. I'm receiving that message of mindfulness and looking inward well from the Hindu and Buddhism portions of it. I haven't quite got to Confucianism yet, I just haven't read it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But that looking inward, I want to blend that well, and I'm receiving the way that they do it, like their message about it, well, and I'm able to like metabolize that in my thoughts and emotions into being a better Christian. So I'm trying to find a way to blend some of the Eastern philosophy into my relationship with Christ.
Yeah, there's absolutely no there's absolutely benefit in researching other religions, and you know what, even researching denominations of Christianity and trying to decide. I mean, if we call ourselves Christians, and reaching out, trying to understand other religions, we also need to understand the other denominations, because sometimes it's very small. Like it's very tiny differences. Like say between Methodists and Baptists and things like that.
Right.
But then sometimes you have two types of denominations that are worlds away, just worlds away. Like if you talk about Baptists and Mormons,
Oh yeah,
Mormons say
totally.
they're part of Christianity, and so to understand what people believe, I think that there's it's crucial, beneficial to understand your own walk and your own spiritual walk on this earth, to understand what other people perceive, and then to know why that you believe what you believe, and that I think can only strengthen your spiritual walk.
I agree with that. I'm finding that it's allowing me to grow my maturity emotionally, and it's allowing me to better process what I would describe as the breadth and weight of the scriptures in the Bible. And I don't think that I was at a place where I was open and receptive enough to develop emotional maturity. And that Eastern religion portion of it is allowing me to develop that understanding in order to better metabolize the walk of Christ and how I should apply it my day to day. And I know that kind of sounds conflicting, but in my head and the way that I'm feeling about it, it's working. And I
Well,
like that.
I think what you're talking about here is understanding spiritual concepts that maybe one side speaks to you and helps you understand a lot. I mean, because definitely I studied a lot of Eastern religion. I mean, I grew up Christian, and then I left Christianity. I studied a ton of Eastern religion, and then I came back to Christianity after being hit by a truck. We talked in episode 1,
Right.
and so there was a lot actually to be totally vulnerable about my walk with Christ and my own guilt over possibly after possibly producing several books about Zen and disc golf, hoping, how do I put this? There was a guilt there that I had popularized and pushed people away from Christ in doing those books. And but there was a way to rectify it, and it was either take them down, even though I knew that they were so helpful to people, or reread them, try to do exactly what you're doing, try to reframe it and say, how does this apply biblically? And if it applied biblically, you leave it. If it doesn't apply biblically, you cut it out. And then to just give my testimony at the beginning of the book, saying, look, this book is called Zen and the Art of Disc Golf, and the reason that is because I read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert Pirsig, and I wanted to do something similar for mindfulness and the game that I was really interested in and loved. And it sort of happened. It was catchy. And then I said, I'm not a professional disc golfer. I'm also not a Zen practitioner. As a matter of fact, I'm a Christian. So putting my testimony at the beginning of that book and then making sure that all of the bullet points and precepts that I outlined in the book were not detrimental to my walk with Christ really allowed the two things to line up.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that there's a healthy way and a correct way to bring all of those things together. I think in the Hindu portion of it, I agree with the way that they say, as long as you get there, we don't care what road you take. Mm-hmm. And I think that for me, I feel as far as Christianity is concerned, I'm very open. I don't care who you are or what you do. I want to walk with you regardless of what your sin may be. Everybody's different. Everybody's got their own skeletons.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to get there, I'm willing to walk with you. So that's where I'm at with it right now.
I love this saying. It's spirituality is the ocean, then religion is a single drop of water. So you've got to have your own walk spiritually and find your own way, and God or the universe or whatever is calling out to you is going to teach you. And, in Christianity, we believe it's the Holy Spirit, right? So if you ask, you shall receive. That's biblical, right? So yes. If you're asking for that spiritual growth, that ocean of spirituality is going to teach you what you need to know. You just got to be open to receiving it.
Well said. I got this other thing that's been weighing pretty heavy on my mind. I'm going to change gears here so that way we don't.
Yeah, pop it into fifth.
So I'm in college. I'm a full-time college student. Right now I'm just working on my core classes and having some. I got 2 core classes and 2 funsies in there, as I like to call them. And I was in one of my 2 fun classes, and this is Western Civ up to 1400 AD.
Okay.
Really cool class. A lot of old timey stuff. The professor, I won't name him. Awesome dude. Love the way he teaches. Dude's a killer. He's a tenured guy. This man is like bulletproof, and I love him for it. But so apparently in 2019 we're still using Scantrons, which is insane.
Yeah. And remind me to go back on that.
Bookmark. So I will. So we had some snow days, and I walked into a test that I didn't even know we were having because the last day was a snow day. Well, instead of doing the review, he just rolled into the test. Which is fine. I didn't care. I was prepared.
Pop test.
And it was just a pop test, whatever. So I didn't have a pencil. So he goes, anybody got any questions? I put my hand up. I go, yeah, can I go to the store real quick? And it's like right around the corner from the room we're in. I go, can I go get a pack of pencils? He goes, no, ask one of your classmates. And I'm like, this isn't middle school. I'm going to go buy a box of fucking pencils. So, but anyway, I see this girl and she's in front of me and she's got this, little pencil bag. So I just stand up and I go, excuse me, miss. And she's 18 years old. She's a young gal. Mm-hmm. And I go, excuse me, miss, may I please borrow one of your mechanical pencils for this test? I'll return it when I'm done. And the strangest thing happened. She started to shake. And now what I don't mean is she started to shake because she had Parkinson's or anything. She got scared. And she couldn't get the bag. Yes, she couldn't get the bag open. And she started to cry.
No.
Yes.
Tears?
So, tears. Hand of God. And so I was like, I just kind of stood there and I just kind of slowly backed away. And this kid behind me, a young black kid, he goes, hey, brother, I got you. And he hands me a pencil. I go, hey, man, I appreciate you bailing me out on this one. I'll get you back another day. Don't worry about it. And he goes, no, man, it's cool. And so he gives me his pencil and hell of a nice kid. Yeah, he even took my test up for me when I finished. He walked right up to the front of class. Hell of a good guy. And so I finished my test and I didn't think much of it. I was just like, well, maybe she's having a bad day, whatever. So the weekend rolls on and we roll into the next class the following Tuesday. And this girl's in front of me again. And we sit, pretty much everybody sits in the same seats in this auditorium. This gal's always in front of me. And we've had no interaction. I've talked to everybody around me, but she won't talk. So she gets her test back. And I got a pretty bitchin' 72% on my test, which was like, nailed it. Because I didn't know we were having a test. I didn't study.
So that's passing.
No. Right?
So 70.
I was like, C's get degrees. I'll take it.
Yeah.
For not having studied at all, and not only knew there was words in there I'd never seen in my life. And
I always tell my wife, just a doctor's just a doctor. You have no idea if they were A+ doctor or a C- doctor.
Exactly. Yeah. And so this guy was like, I was a B student. Don't worry about getting A's. So, and he's got a doctorate. So she gets her test back and we go through it and we score it. Well, we get to this, there's a last page and it was matching and she got all 12 of them wrong. So she raised her hand and the doctor, I almost said his name there. He comes over and he goes, something wrong. And he's like, oh, hold on. What's going on with you? She's losing it, crying, can't handle it. Just, broken as a person over multiple choice. Imagine, it don't matter. And so it started to bother me and it's bothered me ever since. And I've thought about this girl, because she's 18 years old and she's just starting adulthood. And here she is facing an irrelevant Western civilization test from a class that has no homework, no attendance policy. And participation is the biggest part of your grade. And she doesn't even talk.
She's failing social behavior in a very controlled environment. And eventually she's going to have to go out into an uncontrolled environment and it's going to be sink or swim. And that's, a lot of what's going on in our society today. We are kind of programming, and this started a long time ago. It probably started when you and I were kids. We've programmed people or young kids to believe that having problems or conflict is a problem, that we should not have conflict. And not to be cliche with everybody gets a trophy kind of ideal, but if conflict arises, we have to stop it. And and what happens is we produce people unable to deal with conflict, unable to deal with bullies, unable to deal with the things that are going to occur in real life. Like, okay, so they have bullies in elementary school, bullies in middle school. And they definitely did when I was a kid. I'm sure they did when you were a kid. I'm sure they do now. I'm sure that a lot of them are digital bullies and, doing the online bullying stuff. But, there's something to be said for that. And I definitely do not advocate bullies, right? But coming from the right framework, it helps prepare a person to deal with going out into the real world and uncontrolled atmosphere where people are going to be bullies. And how do you manage that? How do you manage conflict? If we're removing the conflict away from children, we're not teaching them how to manage the conflict itself.
Well, yeah, it's eliminating normal human emotions of fear, anger, shame, and conflict. I don't know. I all of my friends like conflict.
Yeah.
We don't go look for it. That's
Right.
not what I'm saying. I don't go out in the street and be like, fuck you, Debbie. You want to?
Yeah.
Why? You know what I mean? I don't go fight my neighbor. If my neighbor needs help shoveling her driveway, I just go over and shovel her driveway. I don't go outside and be like, you suck.
And
But what I cannot wrap my head around is this 18-year-old girl collapsed mentally over a test that doesn't fucking matter.
And what I find is that the absolute worst leadership trait that anybody could have is the inability to handle conflict head on. That is the worst leadership. So you cannot call yourself a leader if you have conflict avoidance at all times, because part of being a leader is seeing conflict and mitigating problems, taking ownership for things and taking care of problems. So I used to so when I was back on the floor, and I'm getting ready to go back on the floor again to the fire station, I answered the bells, right? I answered for emergency calls, right? Me being in a more administrative position right now, the past 2 years and for the next couple weeks, I answer the phone, not the bells. And every time that phone rings or buzzes, it's conflict. I mean, I had 5 conflicts 5 minutes ago. The 5 minutes that in between podcasting, I checked my phone. I had 5 texts, and they were all conflict. So you cannot physically be a leader, I think, in any profession, and not be able to handle conflict.
I agree. So I'm trying to understand my place on campus with these younger kids and understand that I am not there to teach them anything, but that I am there to also learn, and that I should not go fishing to try to save some drowning fish, and that maybe I should just casually observe my environment kind of as an anthropologist in a way, to better prepare my kids. But it's yes. bothered me. It's bothered me to see that girl that way.
So that's the key. You hit the nail on the head there. How do we fix this? We become good fathers, good mothers, good fathers, and we train our children to be able to handle conflict better. We don't constantly remove the conflict from them. We allow them to handle it better. Now, as for her, one of 2 things going to happen. She's going to go out in this uncontrolled atmosphere, deal with conflict, and it's going to either change her to where she may have some kind of breakdown, but eventually she'll be able to handle it, or it's going to destroy her, one or the other. And, you or I don't really have the ability to change somebody that far gone. I don't think.
Agree.
Unless you are the conflict that's going to change or destroy her. Maybe that conflict was asking for a pencil.
Hopefully it helped. I don't know. There's one other thing that I want to get off my chest today too, Pat, since we're going off the cuff here.
Off the cuff.
I've had several people since we've started doing this podcast say to me, Zach, I never knew X, Y, and Z about you until I heard it on the podcast. Zach, I had no idea. Zach, oh my goodness, how did I not know? Some of those people, I hold no grudges.
Should have known.
But other ones, I want to be the first to say, shame on you, because I ask you what's going on in your life, and I care.
Wow.
And secondly, I am an open book on this podcast in the same way I'm an open book at my house. I'm an open book on my cell phone.
Yeah.
You can contact me at any time. I reach out and I talk to you and I try to have an interpersonal relationship with you. I am just as open in person and on the phone as I am on this podcast. Make no mistake about it. I seek the people that seek me.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear a sob story about how, oh, I didn't know, and oh my God, I feel so bad, and blah. I don't want your pity. I want your time.
There it is.
And I want your energy and your effort. And if
Yeah.
you want to be a part of my life, you'll know these things. But if you're not, and some people are just removed. One of my cousins in Hawaii. I don't expect her to know everything that's going on in my day-to-day life. It's hard enough to talk to her 5 hours difference. I get it. And it don't bother me. I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about the people that live 2 blocks away that I'm related to that I haven't talked to in 3 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I never knew. Oh, I had no idea. Shame on you. I've invited you over for years and you've never knocked on the door.
Wow.
So I just had to get that off my chest. I know it sounds like I'm being a jerk, but
no, sometimes you got to vent, man. And and I've complained to you about that, especially with Bryce. You know, we've been dealing with. I shouldn't be saying dealing. We've been working with and trying to learn about Bryce's autism for a year, and we still run into people who don't know he's autistic or don't understand the levels or the things that we deal with. And it's not until I start posting things, they're like, oh, we had no idea you were having that hardship. And it's just like, I've physically tried to tell you. I've put a name to it. You can go so far as to say, I have done certain things in my life that are calling for help. And, you missed it.
I agree with that.
And you missed it. You missed the bus. And moving on, right? So what do we do? So what do we do with this? So that's the question. We keep podcasting because
I agree.
Because I think these conversations. I think we've had about 4 different types of conversations in this podcast. I think that they're helpful. And when we vent about certain things and we try to pick them apart and dissect that problem or that issue, there's a guy that we don't know that's driving to work in the morning. You and I, Zach, we don't know this guy. And I'll be the first to say, hey, guy, but we don't know you, but we know that you're dealing with some of these problems that we have. And that's why you're listening to this show. And it's like I was talking about earlier that if you're open and you're asking, that the education will be provided. And sometimes it's not that you and I have a solution to a problem. Sometimes for other people out there, it's just knowing that other people have the same problem or other people are suffering with that problem. So we bring them 2 sides of the coin, don't we? We bring them people who are hugely inspirational, who we find to be inspirational out there doing amazing things and overcoming adversity. And then we skip over here and we say, look, we're not perfect. We're vulnerable. We're going through stuff together, and how we manage that is you and I as friends. We get together on Sunday nights and we do podcasts and we talk to each other and we try to pick apart the stuff that we've been, mulling over all week.
I think it's an extremely healthy release, and I'm very proud of it, and I'm glad that we do this. We get done with this, I will be out of words, and I'm happy for that. It's nice to get it out.
Yeah. So I tell you what, let's go to bed.
Hey,
separately.
Hey, do me a favor, man.
Hundreds and hundreds of miles away.
Hundreds and hundreds of miles away. Do me a favor, man. Give Chris my best and tell Bryce I'm a huge fan of his work. Tell him I said stay wild and give him a hug for me, will you?
All right. You do the same for Ashlyn and the kids.
Will do. All right. Hey, peace and love, brother. We'll see you.
Bye.